Hi, this is Alan from Alpus Group. I'm going to discuss today the key speech by Sir Ove Arup in 1970, which had the introductory phrase, "No matter how wonderful an organisation we can devise, its success depends on the people working in it and for it." And the reason I'm going to discuss this is because Sir Ove Arup had very ethical aspirations for his business and dealing with clients and dealing with his staff. So these principles are quite interesting, and it's interesting to just discuss the speech because it goes into all aspects of business and how to do ethical business. So this is the preface by Sir Ove Arup. I never met him, but this is his speech. By 1970, Arup, then Ove Arup and Partners, was made up of several independent practices spread around the world. As leaders of the various original Arup practices started to retire, it was clear there was a danger that the firm's ethos might have become diluted. There was still a collective desire to continue working together, so this felt like the right moment for Ove Arup to reflect on the firm's nature, its values and its future. So Sir Ove Arup made this speech on the 9th of July in 1970 in Winchester, and it's become known as his key speech, and it's been reproduced many times, and it's often quoted, and even more than 50 years later, the company still treasures these aims, looking to them for guidance as they face new challenges. So they're inspired by the speech's honest search for answers to the questions of what work is, for what work we should pursue, and how we should best work together. So it's all about collaboration and good relationships, honesty, ethics in business. And I won't read every word in this speech because it would just be too long and too boring, but I'll call on particular phrases. Ove also notes, "Our aims are the only thing which hold us together, and because it is not enough to approve them, we must work for them." So as we reflect on the legacy of this speech half a century later, both its enduring contributions and its historic shadows, we come back to what holds us together and sets us apart. Our emphasis on interesting and rewarding work, guided by humanitarian values and the ideals of total architecture, as we work together to shape a better world and a more sustainable future for all. This is a picture of Sir Ove Arup on the roof of Coventry Cathedral in 1966. In its prenatal stage, this talk has been honoured with the name of Key Speech. It's doubtful whether it can live up to this name. What is it supposed to be key to? The future of the firm, the philosophy, the aims? At the moment, sitting in my garden and waiting for inspiration, I would be more inclined to call it musing of an old gentleman in a garden and leave it at that. This is Sir Ove Arup's words. Humanitarian attitude. Sir Ove Arup was a very human, friendly person, and he wanted to make his organisation as such. The other general principle, the humanitarian attitude, leads to the creation of an organisation which is human and friendly in spite of being large and efficient, where every member is treated not only as a link in a chain of command, but not only as a wheel in a bureaucratic machine, but as a human being whose happiness is the concern of all, who is treated not only as a means, but as an end. So these are the main aims of the firm, Sir Ove Arup and Partners, and they're grouped into three categories. Group A is quality of work, item 2, total architecture, 3, humane organisation, 4, straight and honourable dealings, 5, social usefulness, 6, reasonable prosperity of members. If these aims could be realised to a considerable degree, they would result in Group B of the categories, which is satisfied members, satisfied clients, good reputation and influence. But this will need, Group C, these categories, a membership of quality, efficient organisation, solvency, unity and enthusiasm. This is collaborative working in the picture as at the heart of our culture, Ove Arup's culture, and these are colleagues in Berlin and Germany. Of course, there are not really any strict demarcations between the aims in groups A and C and the results which are in group B, as I've just described, flowing from the whole or partial fulfillment of the aims in A, and it's not absolutely certain that these results are obtained. For instance, A3 and 4, a humane organisation and straight dealings, can as well be considered as a means, and in fact all the points are to some extent both aims and means, because they reinforce each other. And there will be members who are dissatisfied no matter how good the firm is, and the same may apply to clients who may not appreciate quality at all. But on the whole, what I said is true. We should keep the 6 aims in A in view all the time and concentrate on the means to bring them about. But before I do this, I will try to explain why I'm going on about aims, ideals and moral principles and all that, and don't get down to brass tacks. I do this simply because I think these aims are very important. I can't see the point in having such a large firm with offices all over the world unless there is something which holds us together. If we're just ordinary consulting engineers carrying on business just as business to make a comfortable living, I can't see why each office couldn't carry on its own. The idea of somebody in London owning, in inverted commas, all these businesses and hiring people to bring in the dough doesn't seem very inspiring. Unless we have a mission, although I don't like the word, but something higher to strive for, and I don't particularly like that expression either, but unless we feel that we have a special contribution to make, which our very size and diversity and our whole outlook can help to achieve, I for one am not interested. I suppose that you feel the same, and therefore my words to you may seem superfluous. But it is not enough that you feel it. Everybody in the firm should, as far as possible, be made to feel it, and to believe that we, the leaders of the firm, really believe in it and mean to work for it, and not just use it as a flag to put out on Sundays. And they won't believe that unless we do. On the other hand, who am I to tell you and the firm what you should think and feel in the future when I'm gone, or before that for that matter? It wouldn't be any good my trying to lay down the law, and I haven't the slightest inclination to do so. That is my difficulty. I dislike hard principles, ideologies and the like, but they can do more harm than good. They can lead to wholesale murder, as we've seen. And yet we cannot live life entirely without principles, but they have in some way to be flexible, to be adaptable to changing circumstances. Thou shalt not lie, thou shalt not kill are all very well, generally, but do not apply if, for instance, you are tortured by fanatical Nazis or communists to reveal the whereabouts of innocent victims. Then it's your duty to mislead. What these commandments should define is an attitude, to be truthful always, wherever it does not harm other ideals more important in the context, to respect the sanctity of human life and not to destroy life wantonly. But where to draw the line in border cases depends on who you are, what life has taught you, how strong you are. Incidentally, they should not be taken as an encouragement to join the Catholic Church. I found also another way. The way out is not the way round, but the way through. That's rather more uncompromising, more heroic. It springs from a different temperament. It's equally useful in the right place, but the man that hangs his head against a wall may learn a thing or two from the reed that bends in the wind. The picture is that of future vision, exploring the use of virtual reality in transport planning at a showcase event in Cardiff, UK. So the principles that Ove Arup set down, 13 points, which he jotted down, found in an old file, and he's grappling sort of philosophically with these points. 1, some people have moral principles. The essence of moral principles is that they should be lived, but only saints and fanatics do follow moral principles always, which is fortunate. Are then moral principles no good? It appears we can't do without them. It also appears we can't live up to them. So what? A practical solution is what I call the star system. The star, or ideal, indicates the course. Obstacles in the way are circumnavigated, but one gets back on the course after the deviation. The system is adopted by the Catholic Church. Sins can be forgiven if repented. It doesn't affect the definition of good or evil. That this system can degenerate into permanent deviation is obvious. One needs a sense of proportion. The trouble with the last maxim is that it says something about the way, but not about the goal. The way must be adapted to the circumstances. The goal is much more dependent on what sort of person you are. I admit that the last maxim also says a good deal about the man who propounds it, a man of courage, of action, perhaps not given too much to reflection, perhaps not a very wise man. The wise man will consider whether this is possible, whether it leads to the desired result. Unless, of course, his goal is to go through, not to arrive anywhere, like the man in the sports car. But this only shows that it is the goal which is important, whatever it is. And Sir Ove Arup goes on to talk about the star system, this analogy that he uses, sort of point of guidance. So I won't read all this. There's some photographs here about lighting team members in Melbourne, Australia, experimenting with technology at the Innovation Lab event in Hong Kong, and other members volunteer their expertise to support a community project in Bolivia in 2019. So here we have the conclusion of these principles: quality of staff, efficiency, solvency, unity and enthusiasm. And so Sir Ove Arup says, so I'm afraid we have to fall back on philosophy. We've dabbled in this subject in my youth. I've been averse to seeing the term degraded by talk about the philosophy of pile driving or hairdressing, but it is of course useless to fight against the tide. The word has come to stay, and in the philosophy of the firm it's not used quite so badly, so that's what I've been giving you a dose of. I will now discuss what we have to do in order to live up to our philosophy, and I will do it under the 4 headings. That's quality of staff, efficiency, solvency, unity and enthusiasm. But it will of course be necessary to mix them up to some extent. So, Principle 10, quality of staff. How do we ensure that our staff is of the right quality or the best quality? We all realise, of course, that this is a key question. The whole success of our venture depends on our staff. But what can we do about it? We have the staff we have. We must make do with them, of course. And I think we have a larger proportion of really good people than any other firm of our kind. And when we take on new people, the choice is limited. Again, we have to take the best we can get. We cannot pay them a much higher salary than our average scale, because that would upset our solvency and sink the boat. Naturally, our method of selection is important, and what we can do is to educate our staff and give them opportunities to develop. It's important, but can't go into the details here. All I can say is that staff getting and staff treating must not degenerate into a bureaucratic routine matter, but must be on a personal level. When we come across a really good person, grab them, even if they have no immediate need for them, then see to it that they stay with us. The last is a really important point, which in the long run will be decisive. Why should a really good person get a job anywhere, who could start possibly on his own new company? Why should he or she choose to stay with us? If there is a convincing and positive answer to that, then we are on the right way. And then he talks about reasons why people are attracted to Arup. If the Ove Arup partnership, we have all but eliminated ownership. The senior partners only act as owners during their tenure of office because someone has to, according to the laws of the country. And he goes on to talk about, and they all lived happily ever after. Yes, it sounds like a fairy tale, and perhaps it is, but there's something in it. It's a kind of vicious circle, except that it isn't vicious, but benevolent. A lucky circle, and I believe that we have made a beginning in getting onto this lucky circle. I believe that our fantastic growth has something to do with our philosophy. I believe our philosophy is forward-looking. That is what is needed today, is in tune with the new spirit stirring in our time. But of course there are many other and dangerous spirits about, and too much growth may awaken them. Too much growth may also mean too little fruit. my advice would be stadig over die Klippe, or if you prefer, take it easy, more haste, less speed. Aidez-vous lentement. Eil mitweil, hastwerk et lastwerk. He goes on to talk about fruit that matters, different philosophical terms which I won't go into. Equality of opportunity, this is important. You have certainly a point here. Of course, I'm discriminating in favour of quality, and I would do anything to enable our bright people to use their talents. You cannot equate excellence with mediocrity. You cannot pretend they are the same. We would be sunk if we did that. We need to produce works of quality, and we need those who can produce them. There's more talk about different people in different parts of the world here. And Ove Arup acknowledges in the final paragraph, this speech is too long already. I've not even touched on what you perhaps expected to be the main subject of my talk, the relationship between the Ove Arup partnership in London and the overseas partnerships. But from the foregoing, my point of view should be clear. So he's suggesting that these principles apply worldwide to the organisation. The fact that we have these outposts all over the world is, of course, an enormous source of strength to us and to you. It helps to establish our reputation and power for good and opens up opportunities for all our members. This is, however, only because the leaders in these places are our own people, bound to us by common aims and friendships. But as the old leaders retire and growth takes place mainly locally, the ties that bind us together may weaken. We should prevent this by forging more ties, forming new friendships, and always being true to our principles. Improved communications, the universal injunction nowadays. Absence does not make the heart grow fonder, unfortunately. There will always be a need for a strong coordinating body, which at the moment, formed by the senior partners, which has the power to interfere if our principles are seriously betrayed. For should that happen, it would be better to cut off the offending limb, lest the poison should spread. Our name must not be allowed to cover practices which conflict with our philosophy, but at the moment there is no danger of that, and we can take comfort from what has been achieved. Perhaps that should have been the gist of my talk, but you are seeing it for yourself. I could have also dwelt on how far we have still to go. It would perhaps have accorded more with my stargazing habits. But my time is up. My speech should have been condensed to 1/3, but it is too late now. I hope at any rate that I haven't deserved the warning which the Duke of Albany addressed to Gonwell in King Lear. How far your eyes may pierce I cannot tell, striving to better. Oft we mar what's well. How far your eyes may pierce I cannot tell, striving to better. Oft we mar what's well. Strong, powerful words, and a picture of portrait of Sir Ove Arup by Geoffrey Argent in 1969. So that's Sir Ove Arup's keynote speech, and something which I'm very aware of is a powerful principle which Arup adopts, and which I think a lot of other companies could also adopt in terms of the way they carry themselves and their aspirations. So here is a man who talks about integrity in everything that the company tries to achieve, dealings with clients, dealings with staff, and essentially an organisation which is for the benefit of all those parties, the staff, the managers, the respective partners in different countries, and the clients themselves. But it's not a charity, it has to be a solvent company. So these are the sort of principles that Sir Ove Arup tried to achieve, and which he's left a lasting legacy. Cheers for now.